Ripples by Peter Paul Adelinema. Mama Adamu called Abiba, Obi for short, into the women's yard. She had decided to give the special gift which her mother, Amina, may her soul rest in peace, had entrusted to her to give to Obi when she had reached 14. Anytime Mama looked at Obi, she remembered her sister Amina in marriage. God knows she loved Amina like the sister she never had, but the poor girl, in her innocence, had misconstrued Mama Adamu's incessant rebukes as hatred. Well, Mama admitted that sometimes, not most of the time, she overdid it, but God knows that she always did so without malice. Hatred. How could she hate Amina when the only emotion she felt towards the 14-year-old wife and mother-to-be was love and, above all, pity for the young exuberant girl who had been forced into an unhappy marriage? Not once did she see a smile on Amina's face. During the 2 years of her marriage, Amina had aged and looked much older than her 16 years. But who could blame her for being sad, with no friends, apart from the woman from the city who came to Soga on market days to trade, to talk to, 3 rivals to contend with, and a husband as intolerable as Seabu? As Mama Adamu sat patiently and matronly in the women's yard waiting for the prospective bride to make an appearance, her thoughts drifted back to many years ago. 14 years or more when their husband had announced his intention of marrying a 4th wife. The 3 wives had met afterwards and agreed to approve their husband's intention as custom demanded. It was not as if it would make any difference if any of them had objected. A husband's decision was sacred and not subject to change, period. It was obvious that Mama Adamu was indifferent to the news. Could she even call a 4th marriage by the wealthy Seabu news? Our elders say that if a dog bites a man, it is not news. It is when a man bites a dog that it is news. Being his first wife, Mama had lived through all of Seabu's marriages, from the ones arranged by business-minded men for their daughters to provide daily bread, to the ones imposed by poor hunger-stricken families on innocent relations in order to sustain their very existence. It was almost dramatic to watch the young happy brides deteriorate with the speed of light into old unhappy young wives. Seabu MBA was well known throughout Saga and even beyond. His fame rested purely on his wealth, personal achievements, and his reputation for marrying beautiful girls young enough to be his children. He was huge and his small eyes and wide mouth gave him a very severe look. He had a slight stammer and had no patience with people, especially his wives. Amina had lived in perpetual fear of his fiery temper, but Mama Adamu knew that his back was worse than his bite. The feast that marked the marriage ceremony between Seabu and Amina was the talk of the town for months. Seabu was one of the few men in Saga who did not mind flaunting his wealth. There was food and drink for all the people at the ceremony. Everybody present was happy except the bride. If anyone noticed that Amina was not her usual happy and radiant self, he was wise enough not to say so. And if nobody noticed, it was because the festivity was overwhelming. Seabu never did things half-heartedly. When his family protested that 5 goats were sufficient for the feast, he retorted, "I'm marrying another wife because I have the wherewithal. I can live on the bank of a river and wash my hands with spittle." And so food and drink were in abundance at the feast. The head of the family, Seabu's uncle, was asked to pray to the ancestors. He prayed, especially for the bride. "We pray for many children and long life for our daughter and not money because we cannot send money," he said. After the bride had been advised and the bride price received, it was agreed that the women in her husband's household would come for Amina at dawn to escort her to her husband's house. It was ironic that while the bride remained unhappy, she was the envy of all the young women in town. They wished they could trade places with her. Now, Abiba brought back fond memories of her late mother. It was not difficult to tell that Amina had begotten Obi, for she was the exact replica of her mother. She inherited her mother's long legs, small eyes and masculine beauty. When her mother had passed away after giving birth to her, it was decided that Mama Adamu should bring the little girl up as her own. Mama still had a vivid memory of that day when the tiny baby had been entrusted to her care. There had been a small gathering of close friends and family to mark the end of 40 days of mourning the young mother. The elders who had been asked to consult the gods and find out if anyone had a hand in Amina's death were also present to report their findings. The family of Amina had insisted that her death was not a natural one. They blamed it on their enemies who envied their daughter for landing such a big catch. Indeed, Seabu MBA was a big catch. They had totally ignored the post-mortem result which attributed her death to the immaturity of her reproductive organs. When all were seated, Seabu's uncle, the oldest surviving member of the family, cleared his throat and took charge of affairs. "I welcome all of you on behalf of the Seabu family," he began without emotion. He continued with the usual formalities, but the crowd were not interested in his long speech. They were only interested in hearing the report of the investigations into the death of Amina. Finally, when the head of the group got up to report what the gods had said, the silence that suddenly fell had no parallel in the history of the town. Even before the man who was chosen to talk opened his mouth, the family of Amina were casting accusing glances at Safia, Seabu's third wife. Since the day Amina died, her family had treated Safia like an outcast. This was because they believed she had a hand in her rival's death. The reason? Simple. For 2 years, anytime there was a quarrel in the Seabu compound, the factions were always Amina and Safia and their supporters. Most of the time, the fault was Safia's. Being the youngest wife conferred on Amina many privileges such as accompanying their husband to functions, cooking for him, and more importantly, spending more nights with him. It was no secret that Safia begrudged Amina for taking her place as the youngest wife, thereby preventing her from enjoying those special treats. But one could not really lay all the blame on Safia for being green with envy, for she was as young as Amina and much more beautiful. To make matters worse, Amina came into the marriage only 2 years after Safia. Safia knew she was not responsible for Amina's death, but she was as nervous as a new bride. "I just wish that everybody would stop staring at me, as though I have suddenly grown 2 heads," she thought. "Elders, everybody gathered here, welcome once again," the man had begun. "I know you are all anxious to hear the result of our investigation. I will have you know that we, the members of the committee, consulted all the powerful gods you can think of in our bid to unravel the mystery behind Amina's death. All the gods we consulted had the same story: it was our daughter's destiny to die young." It was after this declaration that the matter was left to rest and Safia consequently vindicated. After the meeting, it was unanimously decided by the family that Abiba should be given to Mama Adamu to raise as her own. Since then, Abiba had become like a granddaughter to our mother, as everyone called Mama Adamu. She doted on her to the displeasure of Seabu, who felt that Mama was pampering the little girl. Abi never knew her mother and little was said about her, but she sometimes wished that Mama was her biological mother. She loved Mama Adamu so much that when Mama fell so ill that her children thought she might die, Abiba was always at her bedside. She refused to eat anything until she recovered 3 days later. Such was the bond they shared that on this day when Mama called Obi into the women's yard, she thought she needed her to tidy up the yard for her. Little did she know that she was to be given her mother's diary that would confirm her fears. It made her believe what the old woman had said on her dying bed 3 years ago. She had said that Obi would get married at the age of 14 and that her life would not be any better than her mother's nor her grandmother's. In fact, Obi was destined to suffer the same fate as her grandmother. Amina had been the only female child and the eldest of 6 siblings who were born to Yaro, the man who left their mother 3 years ago before Yusuf, the youngest, could walk. The only responsibility this man had shouldered was in fathering Amina, Moses, Salisu, Thomas, Nureddin and Yusuf. Yaro, Amina's mother, failed to see that Yaro used religion as an excuse to shirk his responsibilities as a father. Obi wished she could do something to avoid her fate, but the woman had repeated that it was her destiny and therefore inevitable. For days, Abiba acted strangely. She seemed to always have too much on her young mind. Mama Adamu noticed her sudden sullen nature. At first, She ignored it, but when Obi continued to act as if she carried all the troubles of the whole world on her shoulder, or better still like an estranged wife, it gave Mama cause to worry. Obi, which of your sons died recently, or was it your business which collapsed? That was Mama when she saw Obi sitting with her head resting in her palm supported by her knees. You have not been yourself these few days. Don't tell me I am imagining things. This is because I know you very well and can tell when my daughter is troubled, she continued. It was just like Mama, who would not mince words. I'm fine, Mama. I'm only nervous about moving into my husband's house. You know, I don't even know the kind of man he is, Obi replied. Don't worry about the kind of man your husband is. I'm sure your father chose the best man for you. Your father can be very harsh, I admit, but he loves you very much and wants only the best for you, so don't worry, she assured Obi. But she herself did not believe a word she said. She suspected that the rumors she overheard in the market about Obi's intended husband were true. The story went that he was irresponsible, a loafer and stingy among other things. She had discussed her fears with her husband, but he showed no interest in pursuing the matter. At that moment, what troubled Obi more was the inability of Mr. Ambrose Yakubu, the head teacher of her primary school, to rescue her as he promised. Mr. Ambrose Yakubu, who everyone called by his full name, has been waging war on the practice of adult men marrying young girls, fit to be their daughters, with very little success. But his daughter and Obi's best friend, Jamila, assured her that her father would save her with the help of the police and officers from the social welfare department. So when he couldn't stop the marriage rites, Obi's entire world seemed to have crashed. The day had finally come for Obi to go to her husband's house. Her sisters-in-law were waiting to take her away. As she packed her clothes, she knew she was about to walk into destruction, but there was nothing she could do to stop it. She had decided during the night to be brave and accept her destiny like a stoic. The only thing she had inherited from her matrilineal family was a gloomy destiny. Suddenly, she heard some commotion in the yard. She could hear Jamila's distinct voice as she and some women engaged her sisters-in-law in hot exchanges. Obi looked outside and saw Mr. Ambrose Yakubu and 3 men talking to her father. Will this work? She asked. Then she thought she heard someone cry out, Obi, run! 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 She dashed out and Jamila and her group ran after her. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like and share so others can also enjoy this story. Let's also know your thoughts at the comment section. Your support helps motivate us to continue providing you with quality content. See you next time.